Good evening, everybody. It is about 5:15. Our apologies for being late. We had an executive session that ran late. But welcome to this regular meeting of the Temple City Council for Thursday, July 11th, 2019. Please rise as Brandon Baker, a very good friend of mine with Impact Temple, leads us in the invocation, followed by our Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Dory Collins with the Youth Impact Temple.
In 1 Kings 3, Solomon asks God for wisdom and understanding to govern his people. And that pleased God. So I'm going to pray that same prayer for our city council and over all those who came to cheer you guys on. Let's pray. Father, we're grateful for this day, and we are thankful for the opportunity to wake up every morning and to go and serve you, to be loving and kind to our neighbors, and to be good stewards of all those things you put in our hands. Father, today, as our city council, mayor, and all those who serve this city make decisions about finances and decisions about how best to serve the city, we ask that you give them wisdom and understanding to know the difference between good and evil, that they may govern your people well. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job.
That was great. Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Cute.
All right, we will move on to the public comment section of the agenda. Citizens who desire to address the council on any matter may sign up to do so prior to this meeting. Public comments will be received during this portion of the meeting. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and no discussion or final action will be taken by the city council today. We have a number of people that have signed up. So if and I think most have signed up on one issue. So if each of you want to step to the podium, one at a time and use your 3 minutes, that's great. If you would like to cluster the comments together and have 3 or 4 people speak on your behalf, that's great too. So whatever works best for you works best for us. First, though, we have Robert Beeman. Please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Robert H. Beeman, and that is 611 West Royal Avenue here in Temple. I just want to give a public announcement, and the public announcement is I want to thank you all, City of Temple, to Tim Davis and Judy Morales for hosting something that never have taken place here in Temple. And we had the fellowship gathering, and it was in June. And without you all and with the Parks and Recreation, it wouldn't have happened. But with you all, things worked out just fine. And we had about 45 churches that was included in this. Brandon Baker was one of them, and other people from Temple Bible. But you all haven't been told how great you are in Temple, and not only that, but how you partner with other people that's coming together as one. So I just want to say thank you. I appreciate it, and we love y'all. And hoping that this will happen again next year. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Pastor Beeman. Thank you for that. Next, and you'll have to excuse me if I mispronounce names. Chris, is it Fior?
Chris Fior, 358 Green Park Drive in Temple, ETJ. My family and I moved to this area about 7.5 years ago. And for my role in leading a large operation, a global IT company, in our expansion into this area. And we settled in the Northcliffe subdivision about 6.5 years ago. And from a business perspective, what attracted my company here and what we talked to our potential recruits about and our potential customers about and other companies that are coming to the area Well, we preach to them about why this area is so great. It's about the spirit of partnership. The partnership, togetherness, the full spirit from top to bottom, from citizen to local governments, to the state government, to educational institutions, right? The full spirit of partnership, no matter where you are in the Central Texas area. That's what we preach to people that come into this area. And I got to say, like, I'm impressed over the last 7 years about how that has actually happened and how that's come to fruition and some of the positive changes that have happened here in Temple. Now back to reality today, right? So with this whole Pepper Creek water tower that's going in, essentially in the North Cliff subdivision, the Pepper Creek water tower is the absolute opposite of that spirit of partnership. There was absolutely no communication with the citizens whatsoever, right? Whether they're in the state, or whether they're in the city limits of Temple, or whether they're in the Temple ETJ. No communication whatsoever, okay? And so I'm disappointed with that lack of transparency and the lack of trust in the people to understand what the greater community needs are, and their ability to help solve those problems and help meet those needs. Some of the issues that I have specifically are, when the average citizen takes a look at the city council agenda, you should be able to take a look and understand that some issue on that agenda might impact you, right? It's not always going to be perfect, right? But it should be that some item on that agenda is going to impact you. And when something's listed as the Pepper Creek elevated storage tank, Pepper Creek, for almost everybody I've talked to, is out here by the hospital complex where the Pepper Creek Trail is. It's not the North Cliff subdivision, right? So an average citizen looking at that agenda doesn't think, oh, geez, maybe I need to look into this further, okay? Issue one. Issue two is, after that first instance came up, every single item related to the Pepper Creek water tower has been on the consent agenda, which means there's not been a peep in this chamber about the impact of that or where it is. And that's an issue, okay? And the consent agenda, the use of the consent agenda, really is meant for routine and non-controversial items, okay? Benign items, okay? Not something that we've got 300 signatures in 48 hours, protesting essentially this water tower. That's not routine, it's not benign, it's not non-controversial, okay? Should not have been on the consent agenda. All right, there's also and then there's also been conflicting information around the purpose of this water tower. And without any public comment period, we haven't had a chance to really clarify what the reason is for the tower. And with that, it looks like my 3 minutes is up, and so I'm going to yield to the next person in line.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Floor. Kevin Kuntz.
Hello, I'm Kevin Kuntz. I'm 353 Claremont. I'm married a Texan, and as everybody knows, at some point when you marry a Texan, you got to get them back to Texas. And so about a year ago, we went on that journey. We are not bound by geography, so our family looked all the way from New Braunfels to Waco. We knew we wanted to be in Central Texas. Frankly, didn't know a whole lot about the Temple Belton area, but as we learned about it, we grew to love it. And frankly, for the first 5.5 months we lived here, it was a dream come true. It's a great community. It's great people. Sadly, these past few weeks have become a bit of a nightmare. So much so that we're questioning ourselves on where we chose to live. And again, it's just unfortunate that, like Chris said, in the spirit of cooperation, it just doesn't seem like that happened. In my previous career, I used to have to travel to Shanghai, China often. I'd have to go, every 6 months. And the thing about going to China that's so amazing is they have these huge construction projects that happen in the blink of an eye. And I commented to my Chinese coworkers once about this and how amazing it was. And they said that, but Mr. Kevin, the Chinese government can go and take whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want, with no regard to the citizens that are there. So even though it takes a little bit more time and it takes a little bit more cooperation, the system in which that happens in the United States is far better. And I agree 100%. So just as Chris mentioned, it's a pretty clear violation of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Pepper Creek is not at all descriptive. As a consent agenda item, again, routine, non-controversial, it doesn't fit any of those tenets. And my worry is because of this lack of transparency, that not only is it not just the right thing to do, there's now a liability that's been created. Anyone that says it doesn't have an impact on all of our property values that are immediately adjacent to that, it's 81 feet from my front door. I have a strong disagreement with that. So any business case that doesn't take into account a lack of property value is just not accurate. So the good news is it's not started yet. Okay, it's been signed off. It was signed off June 20th. There's still time to do the right thing. And that's what I think all of my neighbors and all of us are just asking to do. Is let's take a step back, let's take the extra time that's needed, and let's do the right thing for all the citizens. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kuntz. Next person that signed up is Pam Bass.
Hello, my name is Pam Bass, and I live at 451 Green Park Drive. The water tower in question is directly in front of my house. It will be the first thing I look at every day. I must say I have lived in Bell County my whole life. I love Temple Belton. We took us 3 years to pick this house. We've been there right at a year. We would not have bought it had we known there was a water tower there. I mean, and that lot that was across the street has trees and everything, and Mr. George always stated he would never sell that property. And I believe, he believes that he was coerced and would not have sold that property because there's been several people that have offered to buy it. That is concerning to us. And so, with that being said, I also feel like that the city of Temple has kind of not shown the transparency that they typically do. And I've been very disappointed in that as well. We have bought this house. It took us 3 years to find it. We were very particular in where we ended up locating. And we made sure that it was going to be a neighborhood that was well kept, and everybody took pride in their property. And so we thought we had found our dream home to live the rest of our lives. And now the only thing I seem to want to do is sell it. But I know I can't do that either because nobody would buy it. So it's been very disappointing, very upsetting. And I just implore any of you, have you been to the lot that you're talking about putting it and seeing where it's going? In all the rest of Temple, I don't think they've ever put a water tower in a subdivision. And that's basically where this is going. So I just implore you, if you haven't been by there, please take the time to drive by and see where this water tower is going. Look at the effect it's going to have on the residents there. And just think about if it was your house, what you would think. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Bass. Corey Brenninger.
Hi, good afternoon. Corey Proniger, 128 Claremont Drive. So for most people, the purchase of a home is going to be their largest investment in their lifetime. And we've all done that. And now we've got the city coming in and creating a project that basically threatens our investment and is going to lower it. And to say it's not is ridiculous. I mean, let me just ask you the question. You have two houses that are the exact same price, but one of them has a water tower that's 152 feet tall, 81 feet from your front door, with a chain link fence around it. Are you going to pay the same for that house? No, you're not. But you know, at the end of the day, us being disappointed with the city's not going to change your opinion. I'm the CPA. Decisions ultimately come down to money. This lot was picked because it was the cheapest. It was the cheapest place of the options that the city had to build it, and they went with it. And so, but the problem is, even after that, none of us had a say. There was no notice about it, and Kevin and Chris have already hit on that fact, so I won't go there. I've even tried to go further and done open records requests to get more information on why this site was picked, how the land was purchased. The deadline for the city to respond has come and gone. So not only have y'all violated the Texas Open Meeting Act, You've also violated the Public Information Act, because I've yet to have you got any information. So, with that said, you know, this whole procedure's been done improper, in bad faith, and any judge will clearly see that. So I'll just end it with this, you know, y'all purchased this land because it was the cheapest option to do it. But when it's all said and done, it won't be your cheapest option. You've got a lot of motivated people here that are well educated, that are gonna be a roadblock at every step that we can be. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Richard Cruzen?
Thank you. I'm Dr. Richard Cruzen. I live at 268 Claremont Drive. I've lived there for almost 5 years. So I'm actually in Temple, where some of the other people that are speaking actually live more in Belton. I have some significant concerns. First of all, about property value. I don't live in a shack. I live in a $400,000 house that more than likely is going to lose a significant amount of its value and may be unsellable because of this project. When I walk out my front door right now, have a nice view of other houses and trees. I'll be walking out, and the first thing I'll see is this gigantic monstrosity that you all are planning to build 300 feet from the front door of my house. That concerns me greatly. Second thing is I'm very concerned about how this came about. I didn't hear anything about this project until approximately 1 week ago. I didn't know anything was going to be built in our area. And it astounded me that just down the street is another water tower that everybody knows about. Nobody's had any problem with that water tower being there. But instead of replacing that one, you're planning to stick this gigantic monstrosity of a water tower right in the center of our neighborhood, which to me is just outlandish. And I can't believe that it was never proposed, discussed. No information came out to any of us. I'm very disappointed in this council that you would do something like this, essentially, from what I can tell, behind all our backs, in a way that none of us would have any information about it. So anyway, I'm just very concerned about that. I would hope that you all would put this project on hold for a while, give us a chance to gather more information, present more information to you all. I would hope you would look at some other options. Just across the street is all kinds of undeveloped land that wouldn't affect our property values in the least. But you're wanting to put it right on a corner, right across the street from several of my neighbors, 300 feet from my front door. I'm just sorry to see that going forward, and I hope you all will put this on hold and consider some other options. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it Bert Bass?
Yeah.
Evening. My name is Bert Bass. I live at 451 Green Park Drive. I have been in the construction business over 30 years, and every time that I ever want to do something different pertaining in any city that has to deal with changing land and building of something, I have to go before the city, and if it goes from different zonings, we have to mail out information packets to let the neighbors know what we're trying to do, what we're trying to propose, give them some information on what's happening. Sometimes it don't always work that way, but we inform the people of what we're trying to achieve and build there. My thought on this water tower, like my wife said, I don't want to open my door and see it across the street. To me, you would put it across the street where the main is, and you could save tremendous amounts of money by not having to bore under the highway to tie into the existing mains and all of that, which we found records of. You know, like I said, we bought this house a year ago. We're proud of it, but this is not right. So thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Bass. Rick Holford?
Rick Hayford. I live at 502 North Cliff. I'll break the string. I'm not opposed to the tower. Matter of fact, I applaud the city council for finally taking action to do something about a serious issue in the neighborhood. I'll take issue with folks talking about property values. If a new water tower, a suitable water tower, a sufficient water tower is not constructed someplace out in the west side of Temple, we will not have a stable, consistent water source. If we don't have a stable, consistent water source, everybody's property value will plummet. I was reminded that we don't have one now, just this week. On Monday morning, our water pressure was 40 PSI, pounds per square inch. This morning, it was 35 pounds per square inch. Most of the houses out in our neighborhood have in-ground irrigation systems. My understanding is it takes about 35 PSI for those to operate. Ours was not operating properly this morning. It is a significant issue. It is something that is required. I would like to applaud the DPW staff. Everybody's talking about this being hidden and all that. The DPW staff has been very open with providing details, very professional about providing details about the intricate things of why they picked the site, what it's going to look like, what it's going to service, all those sort of things. So I applaud them for doing that. It just takes a couple of visits. It doesn't take an open records request. It takes a couple of visits to the DPW office, and you can pretty much find out most anything you need to know. This was not a hidden item. In the February-March time frame, at least on 2 occasions, geotechnical surveys were being conducted on the site. All you had to do was ask the question of the guys conducting the survey, what's going on? It was known that a water tower was being planned. It has been known in the neighborhood. And all you have to do, something's happening in the neighborhood, something's a little bit different, ask the question. It probably, if you somehow decide that this project should not go forward and you delay it, my discussions with the DPW indicate it's probably going to cost $250,000 to $500,000 more and probably a year's delay in solving a problem that needs to be solved. We may not directly near the tower, we may not see as great an impact as those that are farther away, farther to the west from the tower may see. The larger tower will permit them to get larger lines to their properties, increase theirs, have basically a stable and consistent water source. I would implore you to continue to march, make this thing happen. And I disagree. The site that it's going to is very unsightly currently. I mean, it's to the point where our homeowners association has asked Mr. Brown to put a fence up. I would also disagree that there are water towers right at the edges of neighborhoods. The P Ridge is right at the edge of a developed area, of a housing area. It is a very clean looking site. And I think I have to agree that the property values maybe right around the tower might suffer a little bit. But I think all the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other properties out in that area are going to see a good, solid, stable water source, and it will positively impact property values. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is it Sean Love?
Sorry, my writing's not the best.
Well, my reading's not great either, so.
Very good. It's Sean Luce, so you're close. That's good.
Trying. I'm still not getting that.
323 Green Park. Yeah, so thank you for letting me talk for just 3 minutes. Thank you to the council. I really appreciate the work you do. I thank you for the way you lead the city, just for being here, for your time. I know you got a lot of hard decisions to make. And my assumption is, as I hear some of these things like lack of transparency, you know, the way the zoning hasn't been changed right, the impact wasn't discussed, the violation of the acts. My assumption is you've heard, or you have in your mind, responses to all those. And we could probably go back and forth all day. We would say one thing and you would say something else that's in your mind already. You know, we could argue over whether I should see a surveyor out front and realize there's going to be a water tower. It's my responsibility to go talk to a surveyor to get that information. or if it's something the city should offer up. We could go back and forth, probably, and hopefully not in court, but I'm sure it's something we could do. However, I have 3 teenagers. Anybody in the room with teenagers understands there's a propensity for conflict in the house oftentimes, right? And so when that happens, I do my best to boil it down to the simplest means I can, right? I mean, emotions are high, things are confusing. I'm gonna boil it down to what's the easiest way we can see eye to eye on something. And that's what I would do here. And usually, I shouldn't say usually, all the time, you can bring that down to the teachings of Christ and things you find in the Bible. In Sermon on the Mount, Jesus told us to treat other people the way you would want to be treated. So my question to the council today is, Mr. Koontz is going to have a water tower 80 feet from his front door. And if you vote for this, I hope in your mind you can say, yeah, I would put a water tower 80 feet in front of my own front door. Because that's what you're doing to this man. And the Basses as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mark Mailer.
Hi, my name is Mark Mahler. I live at 209 East 11th in Belton. And I'll just read from some prepared comments. I've got many of the sentiments I have already been stated, but we have lived in Northcliffe and have owned multiple properties in Northcliffe for around 10 years. As a licensed real estate agent, I know the importance of disclosing material facts related to the transfer of real estate. My wife and I currently own 2 lots which are adjacent to the proposed water tower location. To date, we have received 0 notices from the city related to this project. We've all seen the signs that the city puts up when there's going to be a proposed zoning change on property. These signs go up before the zoning change occurs, giving notice to anyone who might be affected. Why does this kind of notice not occur when the city is involved in a transaction and change of use? Doesn't the city have some obligation to notify nearby property owners of actions taken which will have a significant impact on their property? Does it seem reasonable to place a massive water tower adjacent to a neighborhood like Northcliffe with many home values exceeding $400,000? It's my opinion that placing a massive water tower at this location negatively impacts property values and the lives of many families in the Northcliffe area, some of which are also located in the city of Temple. If this were happening to you, I think your reaction would be the same. A critical mass of negative public sentiment is developing regarding this tower location. We hope that the city sees fit to find a reasonable solution to a very fixable problem. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Julie Mahler.
Okay, I would like to start by reading a letter from Dr. Curtis Fort and his wife Kim. They are out of town and couldn't be here. They have been long-term residents of Northcliffe and currently own a lake lot that they intend to build on in the future. Their letter is as follows. Dear City Council, I would urge you to reconsider placing the water tower at the entrance of Northcliffe based on several factors. 1, it will decrease the property values of homes that currently sell in the $300,000 to $500,000 range. 2, it is our understanding that it will not increase water pressure or flow to Northcliffe residents. And 3, there are several different plots of land available on 2305, Caddy Corner from the elementary school and FM 2271, private and belonging to Corps of Engineers, that you could build on that wouldn't decrease the value of an established neighborhood. Thank you, Curtis and Kim Fort. I'd also like to add a few of my own comments. Out of curiosity, like Mrs. Bass, I would love to know how many of you have actually gone to the proposed site, not just driven by on 2305, but have actually turned in and parked your car on Green Park and on Claremont and looked at the homes and looked at the site. And in doing so, did you imagine what it would be like if you were one of the owners of those homes or of those lots? You see, this is embarrassing to me. My husband and I, on a monthly basis as realtors, we're kind of on your team. We act as representatives of Belton and Temple, showing prospective physicians who are interviewing at Scott & White and other professionals that are coming to our area. We give them community tours. We take them down to the lake, and then we also include neighborhoods in that. We love showing them Northcliffe, and it's going to be different now. I'm not going to be able to hang that right turn into Northcliffe because there's going to be a water tower there. It is an honor and delight to show incoming prospective residents of Temple and Belton what a great place this is. But it's embarrassing to know that this was thought of as a good idea. So I implore you to go back to the drawing board, to do better, to honor the citizens that work and play and spend money in Temple, and to continue to make it a place where future residents that we bring in and show around, where they would want to live, including the north end of Northcliffe. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Rayanne?
I like visual aids.
That's all right.
There's your tower.
Hello, I'm Rayanne Floor, 358 Green Park Drive, Temple ETJ. So I brought a visual for y'all to look at. If you can't see it, I can lift it up later. That is, just so you know, a photo of a tower that currently exists over by the new high school in Temple in that Morgan's Point area. And presumably that's what this tower will look like as well. The City of Temple's Community Development website page states, and I quote, "We work through caring and motivated professionals who contribute towards shaping Temple as a community of choice in Central Texas." Now that's the reason that Chris and I, we brought our family from Virginia here. We could have chosen anything from Round Rock to Waco, and we selected here in the Temple Belton area. And we did that because we truly believed that this was a city that was governed by leaders who spoke for its community and its neighbors. I am really disappointed in the city and disgusted, honestly, with the professionals and the city engineer that found this location to be acceptable. Additionally, the manner in which the council approved the selected location is unacceptable. And no, I do not think it was obvious to anyone in our community or our surrounding community that this was happening. The photo doesn't truly begin to depict really what you're going to see, but I'm going to try here. So I want you to note the industrialized cylindrical concrete base, okay, and the landscaping of dirt, cement, and gravel. Additionally, note the chain-linked fence topped off with razor barbed wire. Note the addition of multiple street lights as well as the lighting around the tower. And that doesn't even begin to even describe what that construction is going to look like and what it's going to sound like for the next year or so until it's completed. In an area of incredible growth and development, it's difficult to comprehend why the city would place a structure of this magnitude and potential impact into a well-established community, not a new community where the tower the tower already exists and then they put up the houses, right? This is a community that's already established and now we're putting a tower. That's different. Finally, we've also been told that water tower will have little impact on Northcliffe. My other people have said that as well, and so that's really unclear. We've also been told that there's a water bottle plant that's being constructed currently out near Wilson Art, and that's going to pull from our water, and that's the reason why this tower is coming in. So, I'd like the City of Temple and its citizens to know that this is a greater value perhaps to the City of Temple and not to its citizens. After speaking with 6 local prominent real estate agents, they've all confirmed one thing, and that's that this will most definitely have a severe impact on not only the homes directly surrounding the tower, but also the entire community. Think about comps, okay? Recently, we created an online petition, and like my husband said, in a 48-hour period, we received 300 signatures that all went to hopefully each and every one of you in your emails. Sorry for building your email up there. But so that should say a lot. That should say a lot about our community and our response to this. And again, we weren't arguing that the need for the tower is there. We were arguing the location. So let me ask you guys, I want to know this, and obviously you can't answer, but would you stay silent if a tower of this magnitude, 1 million gallon tower, standing approximately 17 stories tall, with the industrial landscape and surroundings, and that was going to be constructed 80, 81 feet from your front door, would you sit there silently and let that go on? It certainly does not appear that the members of this council considered their neighbors or the citizens in this decision. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you all for your willingness to come tonight and speak for a minute. We understand this is a controversial issue, and we also understand that it's not easy. I can assure you simply that all both state and local laws were followed. Nothing was hidden. So we as a council feel comfortable in that that nothing was swept under the rug. We would never do that. And I also realize that that many of you are angry about that and don't agree with that. But that's the fact, is that we were we followed everything that was required. In posting, and it's been going on for, since April. So, but again, thank you all for being here tonight, very much. All right, now we'll move on to the consent agenda. All items listed under this section are considered to be routine by the City Council and may be enacted by one motion. If discussion is desired by the City Council, any item may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any council member and will be considered separately. Council, this is items 3A through 3T. Are there any items that you wish to remove from the agenda and be considered separately? No. If not, then I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, which is items 3A through 3T.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda as read.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary?
Councilmember Long?
Aye.
Councilmember Walker?
Aye.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Morales? Mayor Davis?
Aye. Moving on to the regular agenda, item 4 is a first reading and a public hearing to consider an ordinance adopting a rezoning from agricultural to single-family attached 3 zoning district on 2.089 plus or minus acres, situated in the Baldwin-Robertson Survey, abstract number 17, Bell County, Texas, addressed as 8355 Tarver Drive. Ms. Lyerly.
Thank you, Mayor. And as you mentioned, this is a rezoning request from the Ag District to the Single Family Attached 3 District. And I have a picture of the property on the screen. As you can see, it's on the south side of Tarver Drive, and it is just west of South Pea Ridge Road. And you'll notice that the property fronts Tarver Drive, but there is a small portion that actually goes up to South Pea Ridge. And the applicants are requesting a rezoning from ag to single-family attached 3 to allow for single-family residential development. It is 2.089 acres, and it's located at 8355 Tarver Drive. And I have a zoning map on the screen. The whole green area is zoned ag district, and the area just to the west of the property is zoned single-family 2 district, and then we have some general retail and Office 2 districts across the street on the east side of South Pea Ridge Road. The future land use map for the subject property is suburban residential, and it is characterized by mid-sized single-family lots, which allow greater separation between dwellings and more emphasis on the green space. I have that this is a partial compliance with the future land use because the single-family attached 3 district can have a larger density than what is characterized by suburban residential. But in this case, it is still a residential recommendation. And I would like to point out next to the property is auto urban residential in the orange area, and that is actually allows for greater residential density. The thoroughfare map in this area, Tarver Drive is classified as a collector, as well as South Pea Ridge Road, which is to the east of this property. Collectors are appropriate for residential subdivisions, and so this request does comply with the thoroughfare plan. We do have existing water and sewer in the area. We have water along Tarver Drive as well as South Pea Ridge Road, and then sewer also along Tarver Drive and South Pea Ridge Road. I have some pictures on the actual property. This is the view from Tarver Drive, and then the properties to the north is the school, and then the surrounding properties to the south. You can see the subject property as well as some of the residential areas to the west. And this is a view to the properties to the east toward South Pea Ridge Road. To the west is the subdivision that is just on the west property line, and also you'll see there's a little concrete area that is the drainage area. There's actually a 50-foot wide drainage easement along that west property line. And so I have the standards for the single-family attached 3 on the screen with the minimum lot size of 2,300 square feet, with the minimum lot width of 20 feet, a minimum lot depth of 100 feet. And then uses that are allowed within the single-family attached 3 district would be a single-family residential, detached and attached, also townhouses, patio homes, and 0 lot line dwellings. Uses that are prohibited in the single-family attached 3 district would be duplexes, triplexes, multiple family dwelling, as well as apartments, and HUD code land lease communities. The request does comply with all the uses or all the criteria, except as I mentioned, I have a partial compliance with the future land use plan. We mailed out 20 notices to property owners within 200 feet of the property. On the screen, I have that we received 2 notices back in disagreement of this request, and those are noted with the red Ds on the screen. I have a red dot on one of the properties because I talked to the person on the phone, so it was a verbal conversation, and they were concerned with the drainage along that west property line. And so at its June 3rd, 2019 meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 7-0 with 1 abstention to approve the rezoning request from ag to single-family attached 3 per staff's recommendation. And so if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those for you.
Council, any thoughts or questions on this item? This item is subject to a public hearing. Anyone wishing to discuss this item may step to the podium and do so. And if you do, please state your name and address for the record. All right, very good. There being no comments, then I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion on item number 4.
Make a motion for approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary?
Councilmember Long?
Aye.
Councilmember Walker?
Aye.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Morales?
Aye.
Mayor Davis?
Aye. We'll read in items number 5 and 6 together. Number 5 states, this item is also subject to a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance authorizing the voluntary annexation of 89.373 acres of land out of the Maximo Marino Survey, abstract number 14, located on the east side of Old State Highway 95, and 3.95 acres of right-of-way of Old Highway 95 in the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the city of Temple, Bell County, Texas. And then item 6 reads, to consider adopting an ordinance authorizing the voluntary annexation of 47.655 acres of land out of the Maximo Marino Survey, abstract number 14, located on the east side of Old State Highway 95 and the south side of Barnhart Road, and 2.371 acres of right-of-way of Barnhart Road in the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the city of Temple, Texas, in Bell County. Ms. Lively.
Mayor. And as you mentioned, this presentation involves two voluntary annexation requests. The first one, FY 19-3 ANX, is property that is along Old Highway 93. And it is located on the east side of Old State Highway 95. It's also known as Little River Road, and the property owner is Short-Term Lending GP. And the second one is FY 19-4-ANX, and it involves property along Barnhart Road as well as located on the east side of Old State Highway 95. And the property owner is the Temple Independent School District. They are both being presented together because they are adjacent properties. And the applicant proposes to have a rezoning in the future. Let's see. So this is an aerial showing where these properties are located. And the FY 19-4 A and X also involves approximately 0.41 miles of annexation of Barnhart Road. And FY 19-3 A and X also involves approximately 0.51 miles of annexation of Old Highway 95. And so the annexation schedule, on May the 2nd, 2019, we received the petition from City Council to develop a municipal service plan for the properties, and which were reviewed by all relevant departments. We had the first public hearing for the municipal service plan on June the 6th, 2019, and then the second public hearing on June the 7th. And so that brings us today to the first reading of the voluntary annexation ordinances. And then the second reading for both of these voluntary annexations will be on July the 18th of this year. And so, as I mentioned, we did have a municipal service plan that was reviewed and presented, and all relevant departments were in review of the service plan with no issues. And the purpose of that is to ensure that the same level of city services for this property upon the annexation as other properties within the city of Temple. And so if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those for you.
Good, thank you. Council, any questions on this item? These two items? Very good. Then I will open the public hearing on both items 5 and 6. At this time, I'll open that public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter may do so. Please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Scott Keela, 20 Richland Drive. Mayor, Council, thank you for considering this voluntary annexation. You know, there's a lot of growth in the area. We work closely with TISD and the city staff on this project, and I can answer any questions you have.
Thank you, sir.
May I respond to that?
Sure.
Just one sec.
No problem.
Just as a former TISD board member, thank you for working so closely. It's very appreciated. Thanks.
Sure. All right. Kevin Kuntz, 353 Claremont Drive, Temple ETJ. I would just like to say congratulations. This is perfect. You know, the way that these items have been handled, with plenty of notification, plenty of pictures, discussion, clearly marked on a map, that's just a wonderful job on good governance. So thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? All right, there being no one else, then I will close this public hearing, and I'll take a motion on item number 5.
Motion to, I'll second her motion.
Very good. We have a motion and a second on item 5, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Long?
Aye.
Councilmember Walker?
Aye.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Morales? Mayor Davis?
All right. I'll now take a motion and a second on item number 6.
I'll make a motion to approve item 6.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Long?
Aye.
Councilmember Walker?
Aye.
Councilmember Williams? Mayor Pro Tem Morales? Mayor Davis?
All right. Moving on to item number 7 is an item that requires a public hearing, is to consider adopting an ordinance amending the City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 6, Animals and Fowl, to bring this chapter into compliance with state regulations, simplify and clarify language and terms, and provide more effective enforcement tools.
And Council. So we finally made it on Chapter 6, hopefully, but I'll go through the presentation. We talked about it in workshop on the 20th, and pretty much the same as what we discussed on the 20th with a couple of changes. So just as a reminder, Chapter 6 is our chapter that includes regulations on the keeping of animals and the care of animals in the city of Temple. It covers various topics related to those items, including at-large animals, animal cruelty, the adoption of animals, which the city of Temple does run an animal shelter and provides animals for adoption, dangerous animals, and rabies regulations. So with all of the code chapters that we've been going through and working on, our goals for this chapter were to bring it into compliance with state regulations, simplify and clarify the language and the terms so it's easy for citizens to understand, provide more effective enforcement tools for our staff, and ensure that citizens receive due process when it relates to their animals. So the next few slides just kind of list off what I think are, you know, the most important amendments that I wanted to talk to you about tonight. With this chapter, just as a note, what's provided in the packet is a whole new chapter. So it's not a red line version of the chapter that you'll currently see in our Code of Ordinances. So we started over with this chapter. Just in some of these updates we've done, you've received a red line with changes, and sometimes we start over. So we started over on this one. So just as kind of housekeeping items at the beginning of the chapter, it establishes the Animal Services Division as a division of the police department. That's a pretty recent change, as you all are aware of. Historically, Animal Services has been a separate department. Several months ago, it did go under the management of the police department. It gives enforcement authority to enforce those regulations in the chapter to Animal Services and the police department. And it provides what we hope is a comprehensive and updated list of definitions, again, that are easy to understand. So, I want to make sure I didn't. Okay, I did miss the slide. Okay, so importantly, we talked about this at workshop as well, but we're recommending amending the definition of at-large animals to include any animal that's not under restraint, and restraint is defined in the proposed amendment. So as a reminder, our current chapter, we've got some conflicting definitions of at-large, which is an issue that we wanted to fix. But one of those definitions is that at-large means off the premises of the owner, not under a leash, or otherwise under the immediate control of a person that's physically capable of restraining the animal. So that current definition would allow an animal to be off leash as long as they're with somebody who's physically capable of restraining them. The proposed definition, and just as a note, we talked about as well, at-large animals is the #1 complaint that the Animal Services Division receives. And so taking that into consideration, the proposal is to define at large as an animal that's not under restraint, and restraint as an animal that's either in a secure enclosure or under the direct physical control of a person by a leash. So out in public, animals will need to be on a leash or in some type of secure enclosure. Most of the time in public, they would be on a leash. There are exceptions to that restraint requirement. So an animal is not considered at large if they are on the premises of their owner's property and under the immediate personal supervision of their owner or control of a responsible person. So an animal, a dog, could still be out in their owner's front yard, not on a leash, as long as that owner has control over the animal. There are other exceptions to the restraint requirement. If they're wearing a functioning electronic collar, they would not be considered at large. If it's a dog and they're in a designated dog park, that is acceptable. If they're at an animal show, if it's a service animal, or if it's an animal used for law enforcement purposes. But that is one of our more substantive changes in the amendments that we're putting forward for your consideration tonight. We have provided a definition of prohibited animal that is more in line with state law, or is in line with state law. We talked a little bit about at workshop that we've got some confusion in our definitions also currently with dangerous animals versus dangerous dogs. And so what we've done in these amendments is define prohibited animal. We reference a definition that's included under state law, and that includes animals such as lions and tigers, and cheetahs and hyenas and all of those things that hopefully people aren't keeping, but also adding on snakes, venomous snakes, I should say, and koala bears, unfortunately, you can't have in the city, or sloths, which seem to be popular these days. Not as pets, but just... So anyway, so we have hopefully define that prohibited animal in a way that better aligns with state law and better captures the type of animal that we're trying to regulate with that definition. Also define public nuisances under this chapter. So, we ask owners of animals to ensure that their animals aren't destroying other people's property, that they're not creating noise that unreasonably disturbs their neighbors, that animals need to be restrained when they're in heat, prevent animals from chasing, attacking, or otherwise interfering with the pedestrians or vehicles, and prevent your animal from being repeatedly at large. So we have a list of public nuisances, what we consider public nuisances, and would give animal services some enforcement ability. Along with that, something new that we're proposing is giving animal services the ability to issue orders to owners whose animals are creating a public nuisance. And those orders would be asking or requiring really the owner to make some remedial measures. So the easiest example that we've been using is you have maybe a dog that is repeatedly digging under the fence or getting out of a broken fence and being at large. And so animal services would have the ability to issue an order to that owner to fix the fence, to fix that, hopefully fix that issue of the animal being at large before issuing a citation and going to court. So animal services already, tries to work with animal owners to fix problems. This would give them in the ordinance one step that they can take before actually issuing a citation. So other remedial measures that they could order are, if an animal is not spayed or neutered, that be done. That if the animal is barking or creating some type of noise, that it be confined in a different space to hopefully keep that from happening. So we also have drafted language to align our animal cruelty regulations with state law. Currently in our chapter, we refer to animal cruelty as a Class C misdemeanor, but state law, depending on the type of action, it can be more than a Class C. In some instances, it can be a Class A, a state jail felony, and so we have specifically lined out those state laws in our ordinance and referred to them. We have provided a section that would restrict tethering. So currently, we have no restrictions on tethering of dogs within the city, so people can, it is allowed. In discussions with Animal Services and Animal Services Advisory Board, tethering dogs can be very unsafe for them if not done correctly. So what we're proposing is putting some restrictions on when animals can be tethered. So if your animal's on your property, we have several restrictions related to the type of chain or rope that could be used, the weight of it compared to the weight of the dog, that it be a properly fitted collar or halter, to make sure that they have access to food and water and dry ground and shade, that they're not outside in freezing weather, that they're not outside when a heat advisory has been issued. So it's a pretty long list of restrictions, but still allows tethering, putting in these restrictions to ensure the safety of the animal. We also have some new regulations related to transportation of animals. An animal has to be safely contained in a vehicle to prevent it from falling or jumping out of the vehicle. So if it's in an unenclosed vehicle, if it's in a truck or a Jeep, it needs to be in some type of cage or vented container or on a multi-point harness to keep it in the vehicle. But those are some new regulations. We have, in these amendments, clarified our impoundment and reclamation process, so not really much new in those processes, but just hopefully more clearly spelling out, when we can impound your animal, what we are allowed to do if the animal is impounded, and how you reclaim it. Clarifying the adoption process and the regulations that go along with that. If you do adopt an animal from the shelter, they have to receive, if they haven't already, rabies vaccinations within a certain number of days, and they have to be spayed or neutered within a certain period of time. So we've hopefully, again, clarified that process for the citizen so that their obligations are clear when they do adopt an animal. We have aligned our rabies control regulations with state law. We had some discussion about this at workshop. Currently, our ordinance requires rabies vaccinations annually. State law doesn't require rabies vaccinations annually. They require that they be done in the amount of time that the manufacturer recommends for whatever vaccination your animal received. And I think commonly rabies vaccinations can be good for up to 3 years. So this will give, we're taking away the 1 year requirement and saying we're going to follow state regulation. So it will give veterinarians some flexibility depending on the manufacturer recommendation for those vaccines. We are keeping the number of dogs and cats allowed at 3 and 3. So we talked about this as well. We did the public survey, and the results pretty good majority thought that owning between 3 and 4, I believe, cats and 3 or 4 dogs was acceptable. So our current ordinance allows citizens to own up to 3 cats and up to 3 dogs, and then a litter of each until that litter reaches 3 months of age. So we are keeping those regulations the same. We are clarifying the multi-pet permit process. So we currently allow individuals who would like to own more than 3 cats or 3 dogs to come in and apply for a multi-pet permit. We've tried to clarify that process in the amendments. And here I will mention, at workshop, we presented a proposal to add regulations to create a feral cat colony registration program. And after further discussions after that meeting with staff, we felt that at this time, that type of program would be difficult to enforce and administer. But if an individual would like to own more than 3 cats, they do have the ability to come in and apply for a multi-pet permit. So that option is still available to them. We have aligned our dangerous dog regulations with state law. So we talked about as well, dangerous dogs are defined under state law. The process for dealing with them is defined under state law, when the animal can be seized, the hearing, the hearing that the owner is entitled to, and the different procedures. So we have clearly adopted those state law regulations, and that's what we'll be following. And that's what we have been following, but our current Chapter 6 is not as clear as it could be on those regulations. And just as a reminder, we are also proposing to implement an aggressive dog regulations. So your dangerous dogs, I call them your higher level offenders. They've caused some type of bodily injury to a person. Your aggressive dog regulations are your lower level offenders, but still showing some aggressive tendencies that Animal Services would like to be able to regulate before they actually cause some type of bodily injury. So we do have the aggressive dog regulations. The hearing process and the procedures for aggressive dogs closely mirrors that for dangerous dogs. It has an appeal process again for dangerous dogs. We'll follow state law, and then we have set forth the hearing process for aggressive dogs in the amendments. The amendments also establish various fees to cover the operation and administration of the regulations. So some of those fees we currently charge are adoption fees, fees to reclaim an animal, but we've tried to clearly define those and set them out in the ordinance. If you all approve this on first reading tonight and it moves to second reading, then at the meeting on the 18th, you'll have a separate item asking you to consider adopting a resolution setting the fee amounts. So the ordinance itself doesn't set out that the fee is $50 or $25, and we typically do that by separate resolution. That is a very quick run through of the amendments. I know we've gone over them in workshop as well. And as we talked about earlier, we did have an Animal Services Advisory Board meeting on Tuesday, and the board did recommend to City Council approval of the amendments with an addition of an amendment to what would be Section 6-54 to allow the keeping of miniature pigs in the city limits. So as a reminder, our current regulations are that swine are only allowed in the city if they're kept in a pen or enclosure on a tract of land at least 10 acres in size that's zoned agricultural. That would still, even if you adopt the exceptions for mini pigs, that would still be the general rule. But the exception for mini pigs is that they would be allowed in all parts of the city if the owner obtains a permit from the city and pays the permit fee. That would be an annual permit. The swine weighs no more than 150 pounds. It has to be kept indoors. You can't have more than 2 in a household. They will not be allowed on the premises of a public business, or they couldn't be kept on the premises of a public business. They have to be sterilized, no breeding allowed in the city. They have to be kept in areas that are clean and sanitary so that doesn't create a nuisance. They have to be vaccinated against erysipelas, is I think how you say it, and they cannot have access to a public body of water. So as we talked in workshop, if you all would like to go with the recommendation of the Animal Services Advisory Board and adopt this amendment, I've typed up some draft motion language, so you'd have to specifically say that you'd like to include that amendment. I can answer any questions. First of all, I want to say, the City Attorney's Office has been kind of, managing the code update process, but we really rely heavily on the departments to help us because if you just asked me and Amanda how to handle animals and the regulation of them from an on-the-ground perspective, we wouldn't know. We can read the law and know what to do. But I want to say Animal Services Department, Amy Strunk and James Martin, Lieutenant Brad Hunt from the police department, they helped us so much. Sometimes, no one wants to meet with a couple of lawyers and talk about law for a couple of hours, multiple times. But they did. They were extremely helpful. And I want to just say that our Animal Services Division, I've been so impressed with them in my entire time here, but impressed with them through this process. And you can tell that they care and they really enjoy their jobs. So I put these pictures on here. because this is Paco, Maximus, and Sadie Mae, and they are 3 animals that our family has adopted from the animal shelter, and they are great additions. And so I would encourage anyone, all of our citizens, to check out the animals that are available there. They are actually have been at capacity a lot lately, so if you're thinking about adding an animal to your family, that's a great place to go. And then before I take questions, I always have to say that Amanda Rice in my office does the most incredible job on these amendments. And this chapter in particular is, I mean, I hope others feel this way, but it's easy to read, it's easy to understand, and that is all due to her work. So I'm happy to answer questions.
Council, any questions for Ms. Linderos?
She's probably better.
Your work on this, Amanda, too. You're the ordinance lady now.
Yeah.
Very good. Any questions? There being none, let's see here. This item is subject to a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter may do so. Please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Milton Hesse, 301 Mitchell Drive. It's been at least 5 to 6 years ago that the council was presented with that a person or persons wanted to raise miniature hogs. Those are hogs or pigs. I mean, miniature or not, they're still hogs to me. And this was discussed and it was defeated, and y'all ruled against it to where they couldn't have any in town. What is the status of this, ma'am?
So, Mr. Hensley, you're correct. It was 2014 that council considered those a very similar amendment, and it did not pass. At this time, staff did not include that amendment in the draft that we presented, but we had a request from a citizen to both the Animal Services Advisory Board and City Council to consider including that amendment. So.
Okay. Will you put in your rules and regulations that this is all right, except 301 Metro Drive? In the surrounding, 2 or 3 lots from me. I don't want a hog. Chickens, all right, I can deal with dogs, I can deal with cats, but, also, are these rules and regulations going to be available to the public, to me?
Yes, sir. So the draft was included in the council packet, so it's already online, but I can get you a copy. But after they are formally adopted, which we have to have one more reading, all of our code chapters are posted on the internet, but I can also provide a hard copy to you as well.
When do you think you will have these?
Well, if council passes on first reading tonight, then the second reading is scheduled for next Thursday.
Okay.
So it would be, and if they pass next Thursday on second reading, then Friday morning I would have them.
If it passes next week, then you're saying that it is set in concrete, that's the way it's going to be?
Yes, sir.
Is there any way that after tonight, after they act on it tonight, that I can come by your office and read these things?
Yes, of course.
Good.
Yes.
Good.
Be happy
Internet and myself, we're not friendly.
That's fine.
That's the way it is with all.
That is fine. We can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When could I come by?
Anytime. I hang out there
Okay.
every day, except weekends.
I appreciate your help.
Yes.
All right. Anyone else? All right, now, at this time, I'll close the public hearing, and council, I will entertain a motion on item 7.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. I'm going to read the legal language that's been given to us, and then I'd like to add to a statement to that. I make a motion to approve item 7 as presented with the addition of amendments to allow for the keeping of miniature swine in the city limits with the restrictions approved by the Animal Services Advisory Board and presented by staff. What I'd like to add to that statement is I really think, I know there's a lot of feeling about this, positive and negative. There's huge misunderstanding in the public about miniature swine. I really thank the Animal Advisory Services Board for all the work they've done and the information they've provided us. I think that we have not an obligation, but it's very important for us to support our boards that are volunteer appointed people. They do a lot of work and give us information. I also thank Dr. Cruz for all the information he's given to us. So there's the first motion on that amendment.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary?
Councilmember Long?
Aye.
Councilmember Walker?
Aye.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Morales? Mayor Davis?
No. Item 8 is to consider adopting a resolution authorizing proceedings with the issuance of the City of Temple, Texas Combination Tax and Revenue Certificates of Obligation, Series 2019, and further directing the publication of notice of intention to issue certificates of obligation in an amount not to exceed $19,500,000 and other matters related to the issuance. Ms. Bernard?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. I was going to ask you to go next slide.
I'll do it.
Please, thank you. This item is to begin a process that prior to the issuance of certificates of obligations, which we refer to as COs, the city is required to publish notice of intent to issue the COs in a newspaper of general circulation stating, 1, the time and the place of the ordinance that would authorize the issuance, 2, the maximum amount of and purpose, and 3, the manner in which the COs will be paid. Next slide, please. The purpose of these COs would be to fund the construction of Poison Oak Road and Kegley Road improvements, also to purchase of 9.1 acres, a main office building with 14,520 square feet of space, several multi-use buildings totaling about 11,800 square feet, located at 1701 North General Bruce Drive. And this is the building that would house the Central Park Centralized Administration Building. That was authorized on June 20th for the purchase of that. And related to the maximum amount, as of now, we're looking at amount not to exceed $19,500,000. The payment source or payback is through our current interest in sinking tax rate. No additional tax rate increase would be required for the payment of these bonds. Next slide, please. And just to refresh you, this is FY 2019 is year 7 of a 10-year transportation capital improvement program that is currently over $140 million. This program began back in FY 2013, and the purpose was to improve existing infrastructure and also add new capacity and connectivity with certain road improvement projects. Next slide. Just refresher on the financing of that program. It was a phased approach. As we went through packages, we would design and have right-of-way acquisitions funded first, and then future issues would include the construction funds. This approach was geared to minimize and stabilize the tax rate impact, also maximize through this the opportunity for the tax base growth, allows our ability to balance the debt amortization, and also align funding with project readiness. And just over the past 7 years, the total tax rate increase to support the $140 million program has been 6.75 cents. There was a cent and a quarter in 1.25 cents in 2013, 3.5 cents in FY 2017, and 2 cents in FY 2018. And based on our current growth assumptions, no additional tax rate increase would be required to support the remaining 55.4 million that's in through years 2023. Just a timeline of the bond issue tonight is you're beginning the process for the notification. The first notice would appear tomorrow, second notice on July 15th. On August 15th, we'd come back to the council requesting award of the lowest bidder for the bonds. And then on September 10th would be the delivery date when the city receives the funds. And I'd be happy to answer any questions related to this process.
Council, any comments or questions? I think the TCIP is one thing that we can all be proud of. I've known other communities that, didn't want to fix potholes, didn't want to, take care of the roads, and that's one thing that this council has always done, and the citizens have always supported that. So I think our infrastructure, our road infrastructure, is something to be proud of. So.
And getting better every day.
I agree. All right. With that, then I will accept a motion and a second on this item.
I move for adoption of item 8 as presented.
I'll second it.
You have a motion and a second, Madam Secretary?
Councilmember Long?
Aye.
Councilmember Walker?
Aye.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Morales? Aye. Mayor Davis?
Aye. Thank you all for attending tonight's meeting, and this meeting is adjourned.